Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you don't know who I am and what I do, my name is Gabriella and I am a freelance photographer and model in the Metro Detroit and Los Angeles area. And today what we're going to be doing is working on retouching for beauty portraits. This is a little bit different than retouching for like family photos or senior photos or anything like that. I'm actually going to break this process up into two separate videos. The first one's going to be my retouching process and the second is going to be my color grading process. So let's get started. The first thing you want to do is obviously pick the photo that you do want to edit. I shot this in a Canon 5DS with a 100mm macro lens. And this is of my friend Sam. She looks absolutely beautiful. This makeup was done by my good friend Morgan. And what it's going to do, I shoot RAW files, so when I open mine, they automatically open in camera RAW in Photoshop. So once it opens up in Canon RAW, I make very few adjustments. I maybe brighten the image a little bit. I'm actually trying to make sure my screen is bright enough for me to see it. And I will actually reduce some of the contrast. This is something that I'll put back later, but for retouching, I just like to have a little bit more of a low contrast image, and then I press open. I don't do any color correction or anything else in camera RAW. So I'm a little annoyed with myself because OBS didn't actually screen record my entire screen. It cut off the sides a little bit. So I'm going to do my best explaining what I'm doing when you can't really see the toolbars that I'm referencing. First things first, I always duplicate my layers so that way if for some reason I hate everything, I can go back without working destructively. What I'm going to do on this duplicated layer is I'm actually going to go in first with a spot retouch. And I'm going to retouch any spots that look like they're actually textural issues. I don't necessarily focus on discoloration or anything like that. I'm going to fix that later. But anything that looks like it's a little bit of a texture issue, it's like blemishes, dry skin, anything like that, little hairs, I'll just get rid of those right now. I use a Wacom Intuos Pro tablet, so I use a pen and a tablet to edit. I would recommend if you are somebody looking to get into retouching like this to definitely do the same. I will also use the patch tool sometimes to get rid of some of these bigger spots. There's really not much wrong with her skin, so this is going to be a really easy spot retouch process. And when you're doing retouching with somebody that has freckles, it can be hard to see the difference between a freckle and a blemish. So, just zoom in really close, take your time. This is something that's going to take me a little bit of while, so I'm going to time lapse and speed this up so that way you're not just sitting here for like 25 minutes. I will also fix the veins in the eyes on this layer as well with the spot retouch, just to save myself that step later. Alright, so right now I'm just finishing up fixing some of the texture issues and that retouch. I played around with possibly removing the nose ring. I opted to keep the nose ring. I think it fits with the vibe. So the next step I'm going to do, and you can't really see this, so I'm really sorry, but you're going to make an adjustment layer and you're going to make a black and white layer. When you bring down the reds and you bring down the yellows of this black and white layer, you can really tell where there's a difference in the skin tone and what can be corrected. So the next thing I'm going to do is make a curves layer. Again, this is going to be an adjustment layer, not actually affecting the photo. And I'm going to invert that. This is how I dodge and burn. So I'm going to take my brush tool, make sure I get a soft round brush, and I'm going to bring the flow down to like 4 to 10 probably. And I'm just going to start making the transition between light and dark a little less harsh. That's the main goal with dodge and burn, is that you want to create a seamless transition between light and dark. You don't necessarily want to make all of the skin tone the same color or else you won't have any depth. So I'm going to go through and even out the skin tone. I will make another curves layer in a minute that is dark. You're going to do the same exact thing. Take a middle point, drag it down versus drag it up. Invert the layer by clicking Control or Command I and paint on with white where you want the skin tone to be darker. And what we're going to do right now is we're just going to even out the skin tone. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my burn layer, which is the top layer in my layers palette right now, and I'm going to use that to create a little bit more definition in the nose, but I'm really going to use it to accentuate this makeup a little bit more, make it a little bit more poppy, make it a little bit more punchy. So I'm actually going to just bring up the opacity or the flow of my brush right now, and I'm going to make those blacks on her eyes and the eyeliner a lot darker, and I'm going to add a little bit more pop to the green as well this way. When you see photos of makeup online, I would guarantee almost 89 to 99% of the time they are photoshopped to look a lot more punchy than they actually are. So this is one way, and this is the beginning way to start with that. You can see in the before and after how much better the eye looks. The makeup looks a lot more sharp and more crisp. I use Dodge and Burn for basically everything. As you can see here, I'm using it to whiten the teeth. Another great use for the burn tool is filling out eyebrows. I make my brush super tiny, and I make brush strokes that simulate hair follicles. This is just to kind of fill in any spots that are a little bit thin or a little bit sparse. They're actually one of my favorite things to retouch. I think it's super fun and it's really relaxing. I just wanted to take a brief break here to let you guys know that on my website, gabriellastephaniec.com, you can actually go and order some of my original prints and stickers right now of some of my photos and original digital paintings. If you're interested in supporting me and supporting me continuing to be freelance and make YouTube videos, any order does help. They are fairly cheap, so I'd love to have you guys have some of my art, and let's get back to the video. I'm feeling pretty good about how the Dodge and Burn looks, so I'm just double checking to make sure. But now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a group with all of these layers, and I'm going to create a layer stamp based on all the layers that are visible. So how to do that is Command Option Shift E or Control Alt Shift E on a PC. And I'm going to make a brand new layer basically with the Dodge and Burn adjustments that I made. The reason that I do this is that way I can go back if I make a mistake. I don't work too destructively, and I can always delete those layers and start fresh. Like I said, I'm going to group those layers, and I'm going to name the group Dodge and Burn just so I can keep track of what I'm doing. I made a copy of that stamp so that way we can work on frequency separation. On the first layer, which is called layer 1 for me, we're going to go to Blur, Gaussian Blur, and we are going to create the layer that we're going to use color on. So I always bring the radius up so that way I don't see that much texture, not too much that it's super soft like Facetune, but just enough so that way some of that texture is eliminated, and then press OK. As you can see, our layer is going to be blurry. When we turn on the second layer, the layer 1 copy, we're going to go to Image, Apply Image, and we're going to do some changes here. So we want to make sure it's applying to layer 1 only. We're going to invert it, and we're going to send the blend mode to add. It's going to look kind of crazy. It's going to look weird and gray. You're going to press OK, and then you're going to change the blend mode of the layer to linear light, not vivid light. I accidentally clicked the wrong one. When we turn off the layer 1, you can see how sharp that the layer 1 copy is, and if we keep layer 1 on and remove layer 1 copy, you'll see that it's still a blurred image. So these two things cannot exist without each other at this point, because either you're going to have an image that's blurry or you're going to have one that's too sharp. So what we did now in frequency separation is you're separating the texture from the color. So now we can edit them separately. If I want to fix some of these spots here, I will want to fix the texture of some of those things. As you know, skin is not complete and perfect texture across the entire thing. I will use the patch tool on this layer just to create some more coherence with the skin texture and making sure there's no harsh transitions between the types of skin texture. The next thing we're going to focus on is fixing the eye makeup. There's really not that much wrong with it, but as you can see in the real world that sometimes makeup gets smudged. It was a little warm, so it gets a little bit melty, you know. We're just going to work on fixing it. So you're going to want to make sure you're on layer 1, that layer that you added Gaussian blur to, and you're going to go to your brush tool and you're going to color pick the color that you want. I'm going to color pick from the eyeliner color, and I'm going to paint onto the eyeliner just to make it a little bit more poppy and to make it sharper than it is in real life. Here I'm going to actually take the skin tone colors and make that inner eye eyeliner a little bit sharper. So basically what I'm going to do is almost erase away some of the makeup just to make that line really sharp. That type of makeup is just hard to achieve on anybody's eye. Another thing I'll fix in the frequency separation process is the eyelashes. Sometimes eyelashes just don't get seen as much when photographing them, or sometimes the mascara doesn't hold as strong as it could onto the eyelashes. So I'm actually going to darken them to make them a little bit more noticeable and make them stand out a little bit more. That being said, Morgan, the makeup artist, did a phenomenal job. It has nothing to do with her makeup skills or the model rubbing off the makeup. It is just the reality of working with makeup. In your beauty photography, something that will stand out is that if you retouch only the face skin and you don't retouch any of the other showing skin, that's going to make it really obvious that the photo is retouched and altered quite a bit. So you want to make sure that you're always retouching the rest of whatever skin is showing on the hand, on the neck, on the shoulder. You just want to make sure that it's all cohesive enough not to stand out. So here you can see the before and after. This is where we started, and this is what we've done since we've started retouching. There's quite a bit of a difference, even for somebody that has a really flawless skin to begin with. So I'm just going to keep making some micro adjustments, fixing little things that I see here and there using the texture and color layers of my frequency separation, and just to really finalize anything that I want to fix before I start color grading this image. Once I've finished with my frequency separation, I actually put them in a separate folder and stamp a new layer for all that are visible. Again, that is Command-Shift-Option-E or Control-Alt-Shift-E. And I'm actually going to make another set of dodge and burn layers. I really want to ensure that those transitions between light and dark are as seamless and as soft as possible. So again, I'm going to make a black and white layer, bring down the red, bring down the yellow, just to see where I could really brighten things up or darken them, and fix any of the tonal issues that still exist. What I'm going to do now is actually go to our main photo layer now, which is going to be layer 2, that is our stamped layer, and I'm going to use the patch tool and just fix up any textural issues that I still see. This is going to be a lot easier now that we fixed so many of the textural issues. We have a lot more options of what we can use as our reference when we pull that texture over to somewhere else. So I'm just going to fix that up really fast. Make any more adjustments that I see might be necessary, some wrinkles I didn't notice before. It's actually really interesting when I go into black and white. A lot of times I'll see textural issues or wrinkles that I didn't see before. So go in there, fix all of those things up, and we'll keep it moving. I like turning any adjustment layers on and off just so I can see the difference and make sure that I'm liking the direction that I'm going in. Sometimes I don't, and I end up just erasing or deleting the entire layer, or I can just go into my layer mask and repaint things over black. The next thing we're going to focus on fixing is the eyes. We're actually going to use an action for this. This is something that I got from Piximperfect. I will link it below and link the video in a card. This is just a super easy way to retouch the eyes. I think it's the most convenient way I've found than doing it myself. So basically all you're going to do is go step by step and follow the directions of their action, and it'll be a really great way to make the eyes pop a little bit but still keep them looking realistic. You can see the before and after here. It's very subtle, but it does brighten the eyes quite a bit. The next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to focus on the hairline. Because I had her hair combed over so far to the side, it actually created this little bit of spot that doesn't have a lot of hair. So we're going to go into liquify to start, and we're actually going to just kind of move that hairline down a little bit. This is just a starting point, and then we will take care of the rest when we're done liquefying it. Before anyone freaks out, it is very, very common in beauty retouching to do a little bit of liquefying to features of the face. It is not that the models aren't beautiful, but sometimes just like certain angles don't accentuate certain features or whatever. So before anybody gets upset, it is very common for retouchers of beauty portraits to make some micro adjustments in liquefy. What we're going to do is grab our clone stamp. We're just going to kind of clone that hair to be moved up a little bit. Like I said, this has nothing to do with her hair. It's just because how much I combed over her hair. And we're going to make that hairline just a little bit fuller. One of the ways I like to make it look a little bit more natural is to use our patch tool to bring over some of that texture. And I'm going to use the art history brush to actually brush into the hair to make it look like it's coming out of the skin. I feel like one of the mistakes I usually see people make is that they keep it like a really straight line, and so it doesn't really look natural. It's like not having a lace front wig. You can kind of tell where those hairlines or those hair follicles don't meet the scalp. We'll take our art history brush, draw in some of those lines into the hair just to make the hairline a little bit more realistic. And there you have it. It's a lot nicer of a hairline. It looks a little bit more high fashion, editorial, beauty portrait than it did before. Alright, for the rest of the retouch process, I'm just going to go in, make some minor adjustments, keep fixing any skin texture issues, going in, fixing any stray hairs in the background. This is super easy to do with the clone stamp since it is such a mute background with no pattern or anything. And that is about it. I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope that this retouch tutorial did help you. I know that it was a bit long and in-depth, but one thing I found when I was watching retouch tutorials is that they actually told you what they were doing, but they didn't show you all of the steps. So I just want to take you completely through my retouch process. And you want to learn how I color graded this image, please pop over to my next video, which is how I color grade beauty photography. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and I will see you over in part 2.